You've got a whole 2 minutes to hold that for.
Yes. Well, a minute, probably 20 seconds.
I think 60 seconds.
Yeah, now we're at 60.
48 seconds.
Now's the real countdown. It does too, from like 55 to 59. Yep. Yeah.
Are you actually timing it?
5.
I think.
No.
No, you no.
No, you better go 10 more. Seconds.
10.
All right.
10 seconds.
It is now 1 o'clock, time for our regularly scheduled commission meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Mayor.
Today, we have a Pledge of Allegiance and invocation by Commissioner Dick.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads. Dear God, thank you for giving us today, and thank you for giving us the rain over the last few weeks. It's much needed and appreciated. Help us be more kind and understanding as we go about our lives, and help us see the pains that others are going through to help us to be supportive in everyone in our community. And be with us today as we meet. Please help us be wise as we make our decisions. In your name we pray. Amen.
Next up is approval of the minutes. Did anybody see any corrections or changes that need to be made?
No, we're good.
Okay. Up next is the time for public comment. This is when people from the community can come up, and you'll have 5 minutes. And when you do come up, could you please state your name? Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Curtis Lawson. I live here in Garden City. I am the former Fannin County Public Works Director. And the reason why I'm here today is I want to set things right with Garden City. When I was the Public Works Director for Fannin County, I was under the supervision of Robert Reese, the county administrator. Under his direction, I was continually directed to make things hard on Garden City. There was things that he didn't like, especially with the agreement that the county had with NDS. Unfortunately, when I was under his direction, I tried to do what I'm being told to do the best that I can. Although what ended up happening there, it finally got to the point where Mr. Reese and myself had a disconnect because of his micromanagement. I wanted to come and tell you guys that the time that I've been here with Fannin County, while I had a direction and a goal that I was planning on taking the Public Works Department, I continually saw a much higher level of professionalism here at the city. Danielle and Matt Allen are two individuals that get things done, and they have the big picture about it. And that is something that every municipality, county needs to have, is somebody that has that big picture that is going to take you into the future where you need to be. So I'm just basically here today to set things right with you guys. I'm not here looking for a job. I just wanted to set you right. And thank you for listening to me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Curtis.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming. Is there anybody else who has any comments on anything that's not on the agenda? All right, thank you.
All right, item 6A is a request from Tiffany Harmon on behalf of the Finney County Fair Board, and Celine is going to present this item.
Mayor, City Commissioners, this is consistent with previous requests from Finney County Fair Board. They're just asking for a reduction rate for trash pickup. They're also asking permission to close Lake Avenue. I think they may have extended that a little bit this year from 9th Street to Taylor, instead of just right in front of the exhibition building. And then also, under code section 635 and 133, the possession, consumption, and sale of CME or alcoholic liquor at the fairgrounds. They have a list of activities, and I would invite Tiffany if you'd like to come up and speak about those items, unless you have any questions.
Please state your name.
Sure, thanks. Anita Ford, Finney County Fair Board President.
Okay.
Gotta bring up my list that I sent to you. So we have a lot of fun things planned the whole week. We're really trying to focus on bringing the fair back and just making the third week of July Finney County's place to be. The 15th, we start with our kickoff concert. We're really proud of that. We're bringing Casey Donahue. It's just a huge Red Dirt Texas Act national band coming in. We have a local Kansas City Red Dirt band that's going to be opening for them. Doors open at 6. They start at 7. We've got some vendors coming. The Crazy House is coming. They're going to do custom cowboy hats. We've got food trucks. We've got, I think, Whiskey Wagon out of Hutch. They're going to be doing our alcohol sales. Then, let's see, and then the 4-H fund starts, open class starts, all the animal shows that start the rest of the week. Thursday, we have Roaring Entertainment coming in. They're remote control cars that basically take up about a third of the exhibition building you can control, and that's fun. And then we have, on Friday, the Garden City Co-op is providing a free feed for the community. They will get hamburgers, hot dogs, chips, drink. Caldwell Blinker is going to do watermelon. We have a free concert starting at 6:30. The feed starts at 6:30. In between the two concerts that we have going on, we have the watermelon eating contest, which was our most popular event last year. So that will be during intermission. We have some raffle giveaways that will be going on as well. The vendor market and the community carnival starts on Saturday, which we have over 30 vendors right now signed up. We have 6 food trucks that are coming. The carnivals that are going around, they're just so booked during all the county fairs are going on. So I don't think we'll be getting an actual carnival back. So our idea was to come up with a community carnival, which we've purchased carnival games. And if any business in the community would like to come up with their own carnival game or whatever, come down and open that up, and just basically we have that going on. We do have a dunk tank coming. I'd like to invite any of the who guys like to sit in the dunk tank.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that sounds like fun.
That's a marathon. That's a marathon.
I'll buy tickets. I'll buy tickets
So
for
we have
that.
that going
Yeah.
on. We're super excited about that. We just have a lot of stuff going on. We're bringing a petting zoo. The corn pits are coming back. So we just have a lot of stuff going on that weekend. We'd like to invite the community, everybody, to make sure that they don't miss it this year, because it's going to be a great one.
Great work.
Basically, all proceeds right now that are sponsorship is going back to the fair. We're really trying to build the fair. We're trying to bring in more acts. We want to bring in a rodeo next year. We have a lot of things that we want to do, and all that takes money. We realized how much money that takes this year after trying to bring in Casey Donahue, and we'd like to be able to bring in a couple more big bands through the week, and just basically, like I said, make the third week of July the Finney County Fair, and make that the place to be. So right now, all the funds are just going to go back into building the fair back up.
That's great. Sounds like a lot of fun. Any other questions?
No. I move that we approve all the requested items as listed.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
so much.
All right, items 7A through E are reports of the city manager. These are all pretty regular reports for you all here this morning, or this afternoon, excuse me. I do want to add one item to this, however, and formally announce that the city has hired a new Parks and Recreation director. So Tisha Hurd will be joining the city in early August, and she comes to us from the Mulvane Recreation Commission. So we're very excited to have her on board and have her join the city. So excited to finally publicly announce that hiring. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have on any items under the city manager's report.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to meetings of note. If there are any items that require an RSVP that are listed here under the meetings of note, please coordinate that through Celine and/or Corey. And with that, it takes us to our appropriations ordinance, which, if approved, would be ordinance number 2581-2023A.
I move to approve appropriation ordinance 2581-2023.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That moves us to item 10, consideration of ordinances and resolutions. All of the items before you today are related to nuisance violations, either environmental or vehicle. So we're going to do what we have done with the last several of those, read the full memo for the first one, and then we'll quickly go through the other ones where we just list the address and the violation that has been noted. So item 10A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve an environmental nuisance resolution for a property located at 611 East Santa Fe Street for a washer and dryer located in the backyard. Trent.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, Trent Maxwell, Director of Human Services. So, like Daniel said, 611 East Santa Fe does have an environmental nuisance violation on it, and that is a washer and dryer located in the backyard. We have two alternatives. I can go into all the detail if you will. The staff has visited the property. Two ordinance violations were sent out April 20th of 2023 and May 8th of 2023. Property residents were unable to be reached. No contact was attempted by them. So with that, we have two alternatives. We've got the governing body may approve the attached resolution, which will allow us to abate the violation. And alternative number two, the governing body may not approve the attached resolution. Staff's recommendation is to approve the attached resolution, alternative number one.
And that resolution number would be 3018-2023.
3018?
Correct.
Okay.
I move to approve resolution number 3018-2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is the governing body is asked to consider and approve an environmental nuisance. This would be Resolution 3019-2023 for the property located at 609 East Santa Fe Street related to wood scattered throughout the property and other miscellaneous items.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 3019-2023.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is an environmental nuisance, which would be Resolution 3020-2023, related to miscellaneous items scattered throughout the property located at 306 North 12th Street.
I move to approve resolution 3020-2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is related to an environmental nuisance located at 1716 Pinecrest Avenue for a couch located outside of the property. And if approved, this would be Resolution 3021-2023.
Make the motion to approve resolution number 3021-2023.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is related to a vehicle nuisance located at 306 North 12th Street. If approved, this would be Resolution 3022.
I move to approve Resolution 3022-2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is a motor vehicle nuisance for the property located at 306 North 12th Street. This is a red vehicle. If approved, it would be resolution number 3023-2023.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 3023-2023.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is another motor vehicle nuisance resolution for the property located at 1502 A Street, related to multiple vehicles on the property. If approved, it would be resolution number 3024-2023.
I move to approve Resolution number 3024-2023.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And the last item is related to a motor vehicle nuisance located at 1716 North 3rd Street, related to a red truck. If approved, this would be resolution number 3025.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 3025-2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, that takes us to new business. The first item under that is a 130 item related to our annual comprehensive financial report. So let's move over to the next item related to the governing body is asked to consider and approve additional negotiations related to the development agreement between the City of Garden City and Garden City Plaza LLC related to redevelopment of property generally located at 2310 Kansas Avenue. We have been talking about this project for quite some time. This is the old Sears building, so we've gone through a number of items related to this, dating all the way back to September of 2022, related to a TIF CID, and actually in April of this year, you all had substantially approved the development agreement with the developer related to this project. However, they reached out before we actually got that development agreement signed, requesting some additional assistance in the form of a loan to help with cash flow on the front end of this project. The request was for a loan amount of $200,000 to be paid back either within 6 months of a certificate of occupancy being granted for a National Chain retail store, or some alternative structure that would likely be the proceeds that we receive either through the CID or the TIF. The city would receive kind of the first $200,000 that either of those would generate. Staff is requesting you all to kind of authorize the continuation of those negotiations. We weren't quite able to get to a place where that was completed before today's meeting, but they're obviously doing a whole lot of work out there, and that project is moving on. So with that, we'll continue to work with Mary Carson, our bond counsel. She's working through the developers council as well, but wanted to present a couple alternatives before you. One would be to authorize the city manager to continue those conversations. The rest of the development agreement hasn't changed in any substantial form, but giving him the ability to continue the negotiations related to that loan provision and what that payback would look like, and all of the details related to that would be the first alternative. The second alternative would be to not authorize the city manager to continue those negotiations and bring back that development agreement as it currently stands. And then alternatively, you could provide staff with additional direction. Our recommendation is for the governing body to authorize the city manager to negotiate the terms of the development agreement related to the loan provision and bring back to the city commission a final development agreement at a future meeting. And fiscal note related to this, there's obviously the $200,000 that we've talked about related to kind of the cash incentive for each of those national chain retailers to be in $100,000 increments for each of those COs that are issued. And then again, there would be an additional kind of $200,000 that would be a loan provision that would be likely paid out in 2023 and wouldn't be paid back for 1 or 2 or 3 years following that. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
So my only question was, have we done this before? Is this or something we've ever done, or is it something that would be just something new we're trying and making sure that?
I think this would be the first time the City of
Okay.
Garden City has done this. In talking to Mary Carson, our bond counsel, she is familiar with other communities
Okay.
that have done this, but I'm not aware of any instance that we've done that here in Garden City before.
Because I know when we set a precedent that if this is available to them, I want to make sure that we do this correctly and do it, making sure that they understand that we're setting precedents for other organizations or other businesses who might want to make a loan like this. So, but I have no problems.
I'll make the motion that the city manager continue to negotiate the terms of the development agreement related to this loan provision and bring the city commission a final development agreement at a future meeting.
I'll second. Troy can do it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, item 10C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request to open another round of AFAC funding in 2023. So again, AFAC funding has some pretty specific parameters in terms of how those dollars can be utilized. And traditionally, the last several years, kind of recognizing that there are not a lot of treatment and prevention facilities and agencies in the city of Garden City. And so past awards have largely been made to agencies that have provided kind of an expanded definition of prevention based on kind of the accepted categories that's outlined in state statute. And this has really helped try to keep those funds local and provide a little bit more flexibility. So the city went through kind of our traditional grant application process earlier this year, and through that process, we awarded just under $70,000 between, we kind of had the two different application processes. We had $100,000 budgeted, which means there's about $30,000 remaining for this calendar year. However, we've seen this trend kind of occur over the last several years, and so we've built up a pretty significant fund balance in that fund, just north of $450,000. And so staff is proposing opening up another cycle this year, which may require us to amend the budget if you all were interested in going above that $30,000 threshold. But really trying to focus those dollars on a couple either ongoing initiatives that have already started or some things that have come up in the commission's goal-setting session. So one is kind of related to childcare, and there's a couple different goals identified in the city commission's goals related to that. And then we've also had conversations over the last several months about a mental health kind of co-responder program. So the idea would be to open up a round of applications. All of the applicants would still have to make the connection between the program being recommended and kind of that education prevention intervention language that shows up in state statute, but would allow for this opportunity and to spend down some of this fund balance that we've had built up over the last several years. Live Well Finney County and their board is supportive of going through and doing the review of those applications. If you'll recall, anything over the $6,000 threshold in our normal process, that board reviews. And so they're supportive of reviewing these applications if we wanted to open that up again. So three alternatives before you. One, the governing body may authorize staff to release a second round of AFAC grant funding for 2023. You may deny that request or provide alternative direction. Staff recommends the governing body authorize us to release that second round of AFAC funding for 2023. Obviously, there's no direct cost in actually releasing that application, but depending on what proposals and applications we get back, there would obviously be a financial cost of this. There is about $450,000 in that fund, not suggesting we go through a process that would allocate all of that. We're suggesting something more in kind of the $200,000 to $250,000 range. And again, we've had a history of not being able to award all of those dollars, so it'd be a little bit more of a concerted effort. Hopefully, refining that focus a little bit may help us kind of narrow down agencies in the community that are doing that work. But with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Well, I'm curious about timeline, so, because again, knowing that we're going to release it, and then the timeline you're hoping by the end of the year, or do you have a proposed timeline? And if there was, I did not see it.
Yeah, no, I apologize. I did not include that in the memo. What we did in the first round of funding, I think the application was out for about 3 or 4 weeks. Then it went to the Finney County Board and then back to you all for a recommendation. I would expect the timing of this to be very similar, so something back before you all in the next couple months. So certainly before the end of the year. It depends a little bit on the timing of the Live Well Finney County Board meetings, but that's kind of the general timing would be a couple months.
So would current AFAC grant recipients be qualified to apply during this cycle? And then also, will the award amount be increased significantly since you've got that amount, or what are the guidelines that you're proposing for funding?
Yeah,
grants?
so the way that kind of structured it is assuming it would be over that kind of $6,000 threshold, so that all of those requests go to the Finney County Live Well Board, and opening it up for a maximum of either that $200,000 or $250,000 range. Again, it would be great if we got enough applications to get to that amount. I don't know if we will, but kind of having that be the cap of it.
But this is saying that the cycle of these applications will be staff reaching out to agencies that can help with one of the following initiatives, and that's for the increased child care services, and if we can, mental health co-responder programs. So there were some applicants who applied that couldn't apply this year. They had to wait for that next cycle, which is, I think, stated as 12 months, not within a second term of. So.
And we certainly could open it up for those that have received in the last 2 years. I think if memory serves, there were a couple of them that fell under that category. So we could certainly open it up for them. That way it's a little bit broader scope.
Well, I like looking at the way it's stated here as the increase in availability of childcare or mental health and correspondent programming. So I like the way it's worded here. So opening it up to others, I think if we can, that's great. But I think looking at this first is probably the direction that staff is looking for. Yeah.
I guess when I looked at this and read it, I guess I had a concern that we had budgeted $100,000, but we had $30,000 left over, which we didn't fully fund, I guess, all agencies. Now we're turning around and you're requesting that we open it up for a larger amount, I guess, for specific areas. But I guess my concern was that we didn't actually if we had such a huge reserve of $451,000, why didn't we fully fund to the budgeted amount if we had that large? I didn't know we had this large amount of reserve in the first place, but I guess that was a concern that I was looking at. Now we're turning around and saying, well, now that we've got this huge reserve, can we go after and do these other projects, which is fine with me, but if there's a need out there, I would assume that we would have provided that funding for the full amount that was budgeted. But again, I know in the past, we haven't fully funded all projects, but just kind of reading this whole thing, it was like, okay.
And I should have clarified that. We did fully fund all of the requests that came in for 2023.
Okay.
We just didn't have requests sufficient to hit that
Okay.
$100,000 threshold.
Yeah. My only concern is like with this being an out-of-cycle funding, most people set on their calendars when we're going to do it. And so I guess how long that you're going to allow for the announcement, because a lot of people, especially with the two focus areas, I think that, in making sure that we gear up, giving people adequate time to understand and then adequate time to complete the application, because I think if we're going to spend some dollars, not to rush the process. Or another option would be to increase next year's ability and then, waive those people who have been awarded and open it up. But if we're going to do that, just to make sure that we really have a robust notification process so that people, oh, I didn't know that was available. And then the second thing, giving them adequate time to prepare, especially knowing, I like the 2 focus areas, knowing that we have these 2 focus areas, but making sure that if we do that, that we are really staying true to that. And if there are we're accepting other applications over and above those 2 focus areas, we need to make sure that we let them know. If we're not, then let's just say these are the 2 areas we're going to focus on. And if they don't fit the areas, then let's not do the additional, so.
Well, and then they would have to fit those 2 focus areas and still tie back to
Yeah,
alcohol
I know,
prevention
that's right, yeah.
and all of that. So it's, yeah, I think you're limited with the nonprofits that will be
I do too.
eligible. But also, I would encourage, nonprofits that would know about this, to really think about capital needs, because this is kind of one of those unprecedented opportunities. So, general operating works great, but if you don't have it for next year, what do you do for that long-term sustainability? And so, thinking about big picture opportunities, I think this would be a really good opportunity for some of those nonprofits to consider.
Yeah, because capital needs, a lot of people won't fund those type of funding,
Right.
and they will fund like programs.
Yes.
But maybe that's an additional something for capital needs, especially in these 2 areas. So
Especially
that-
something that can expand a
Yeah.
program or get one moving and, yes, exactly.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve alternate number 1. The governing body may authorize staff to release a second round of AFAC grant funding for 2023.
Do you have an amount?
Do I need an amount?
I would put a cap on it,
I
at
would.
least.
I think,
For the total amount of $250,000.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve up to $250,000. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Oh, perfect timing.
All right, perfect timing. We'll jump
Yes.
back up to item 10A. Teresa Dazenbrock and Kristen Savek from the accounting firm Lewis Hopper Dick LLC will present the city's 2022 annual comprehensive financial report. Following the presentation, the governing body is asked to consider and accept the annual financial report as presented, and I apologize for butchering both of your names. It is up to you. Yeah.
I'm Teresa Dazenbrock, Kristen Savek, superintendent. Pleased to be with you today. We'll run through this pretty quick. If you have questions, please feel free to interrupt or ask. If you don't know, we'll be glad to go back and dig that information out for you. Just want to let you know it was an unmodified auditor's report once again this year. It does include the 2 reports required to be included for the single audit. So we have a report on internal compliance and a report on compliance with the federal programs. The federal programs had no compliance issues. That's encouraging. Total assets this year for the city were $382.6 million. That is up $34 million from the prior year. And it's actually an increase of $147 million over the last 5 years. So significant growth to the city. Total revenues, we were just under $110 million this year. That's actually down about $7.2 million from last year, but over the 5-year period, it's a $30 million increase. The general fund balance then is your main operating fund outside of the utilities. Did see a decrease of about $1.2 million. Nothing unusual in that though. Fund balance wise, as you're working towards your budget, did actually have an increase in the unencumbered cash balance. We always like to provide the debt information, as you don't typically see it in your monthly financials. This is summarized starting on page 76 of your bound audit report. General obligation bonds of the governmental funds of the city were at about $61.3 million at the end of 2022. That includes a $15.9 million issue during 2022. So we were up a net of about just over $12 million. We still have the 39% debt margin for the city. Utility funds, the general obligation bonds included there were about $25.6 million, or $25.9 million rather. They were actually down $2.5 million with the payments that occurred and no new issues in 2022. The limited obligation bonds of the city at just over $2 million, those are the STAR bonds that are being paid from sales tax proceeds with the state's program. So that's the city's proportional share. It was down $577,000 this year. I think the state is actually paying that off a little quicker than projected. Revenue loans are the other debt for the utility funds, includes the state and the KEA loans. It was down $1.8 million this year at just under $17 million total as of the end of the year. We didn't have any new issues there in 2022. And then the leases, a couple items there. The finance leases are what we used to term capital leases, those assets that you're leasing, and at the end of the lease term, you own the assets. We had $59 million outstanding there at the end of 22. The largest portion of that, over $55 million of it, is for KMEA for the Dogwood and Jameson projects. And the right to use leases, those are new this year with our GASB implementation. GASB 87 required that. We were just under $512,000 for the city on those assets. With the enterprise funds being such a large part of the city's operations, we present some information on those. It's coming from pages 26 through 33 of your audit report. Current assets this year ranged from $18.5 million for the electric department to $11.3 million for the airport. All three of those categories were down: electric, water, sewer, and airport. They were all down this past year. Total assets, though, in the electric fund, we were just under $117 million in total assets. Water and sewer was at $51.5 million, and in the airport at $48.5 million. Net position being the funds that are available for use, basically. In the electric fund, we were at $21.8 million, was actually down, while the water and sewer in the airport were up this past year. The net position for water and sewer was about $39 million at the end of 2022, and the airport was $44.5 million. Operating revenues varied. Electric fund, we were at $35.6 million, which was actually up about 7%. Water and sewer was $12.5 million, and they too were up at 9% increase. The airport was down about 26% with $298,000. Excuse me. You can see then some pretty significant investment occurred this past year in property and plant for each of those three departments. Looking at just the general fund revenues in 2022, taxes continue to make up the largest portion. There was an increase this year, 75% compared to 72% the prior year. I saw an increase also in transfers. It was about 8.9% the previous year, up a little bit this year. Police and municipal court was down a little bit. Licenses and fees were down a little bit. Surprisingly, and kind of a nice change, the use of money in property, which is the turquoise one. It was up this year, so getting a little better return on the funds for that. With the taxes being such a large portion of that, we've just broken that down for you further. Sales tax this year is just under 77% of the total tax receipts. That's up from 72.25 the prior year. So nice growth there. As a result, property taxes and motor vehicle taxes were both down. And then here's the trend for those different areas over a 10-year period. You can see significant growth there in the sales tax. I believe that was from a one-time deal maybe this year. That will probably trend back downwards next year. There's some special use tax that came in. I don't think we'll come down clear to where we were in 2021, but I don't expect we would be quite as high. It'll be nice if we are. Other revenue stays pretty constant. The red line then is your property taxes. It's seen some increases in dollars due to the increases the city's experienced in valuation. But overall, the mill levy's not changed significantly for the city. So on a 10-year average, in the general fund, the mill levy's been averaging just under 20 mills. And overall for the city, just under 38 mills. Expenditure-wise then, for just 2022, most of them percentage-wise are the same as they have been in previous years. There's a couple areas that were down. For the most part, though, only 2 of them increased. The transfers out, the blue piece of the pie was up a little bit, largely because of supply chain issues and more budgeted funds being put into those transferred reserve funds for the future purchases when they become available. Saw a slight increase in cemetery and parks and also. Then the line chart reflects the dollars over the 10-year period for each of those departments. The big jump that occurred there on the top bar, which is police and municipal court, was a result of additional personnel back in 2015. And then in the most current year, 2022, most of those increases are due to personnel also or capital outlay issues. Nothing too unusual in any of those.
Teresa, can I ask a question? And I was going to ask the other day when we talked to, when the fire, I know that the county also pays part of our fire department or the use of that. Does that offset the dollars that we spend, or are these just the actual dollars we spend without that offset, or is that built into the?
This would be the actual out-of-pocket expenditures.
Okay.
The agreement, any payments coming in under that type of contract
Wouldn't
or
impact
any
it.
other, those are receipts, revenues.
Okay, thank you.
Then in total, comparing the revenues and expenditures of the city's general fund over the last 10 years, it's good to say that only one of the 10 years was the revenue less than the expenses, so that's giving you the ability to kind of build and maintain that reserve in the general fund, so it's allowed you then to keep that tax levy pretty constant. So that was 2017 there in the middle when it occurred. Because the federal award programs are so significant to the city dollar-wise, we presented the 10-year history for those by the various federal agencies. Now, I do want to point out, though, if you're looking at the side axis there, that is increasing in multiples of 10. We've done that so those small graphs or small dollars from a lot of those programs, you can still see them. Because most of the grants are actually under 100,000. There's really only 2 areas that we exceeded that, or exceed that level, the $1 million mark in 2022. So in transportation, the purple bar there, for the AIP program was an additional $6.1 million in 2022. And then the very last bar under other was additional COVID money that came in 2022, and that was $2 million. Since it's budget season, we always like to give you some historical information there. And typically we compare it seems like it's the same 16 cities that fall in the 19,000 to the 100,000 population range. It's based on information from the League of Municipalities that accumulate. So it's only as good as the data reported. I think the budget numbers, valuation numbers are good. Sometimes the debt numbers are a little questionable. So this is the information from a year ago that's being used to fund the current 2023 budgets. Assessed valuation-wise, Garden City's towards the low end. We do also include Liberal and Dodge City, since they're in the area here, and we compare ourselves to them frequently. Valuation-wise here, on that up there. Seems like everyone this past year in 2022, valuation was up for everybody. However, valuation for Liberal and Dodge City, they were the two lowest increases reflected in 2022. Garden City, we were fortunate in that we were one of the 4 on this graph that had an increase of 12% or more. So that, and there were actually 12 of the 16 that had changes that were less than what we experienced here in the city. So now if we go to the next graph for debt per capita, and here this is one of those that's kind of only as good as the data presented or provided to the league. Garden City's in at $3,043 per capita. Dodge City's higher, Liberal is lower. Now I believe there's actually 5 that are higher. This is probably actually based, when we look at the next graph, on the general obligation bonds. It does include all of the debt of the city and the general obligation bonds. And a good portion of our general obligation bonds are for the utility funds. So ours here, we're at 77.6 million, but that's general fund and the utility funds. The next graph then is the total levy of the city this past year. We're in here in the middle of the group at just under 30 or just over 38 mils. Actually had a slight decrease last year in the mill levy. Dodge City and Liberal are towards the higher end. Dodge City's mill levy was 43.4 mils the previous year, and Liberal's was 55.6. Manhattan's in there as the next highest, next to Liberal. They were at 52.1. So a good increase there. Liberal was actually the only one that had an increase in their mill levy last year. And then the last graph is just taking and showing a comparison of the mill levy for the city taxing entity, because every one of these cities and counties operates a little bit differently. And if you look at them individually, you're not always comparing apples to apples. So we rolled them all up together here to be a little more comparative in total. You can see Liberal is the highest, and they were at 186 mils last year in total. Dodge City was the next highest at 180.9, and Garden is in there at 165.1 mils. So if you disregarded the community colleges because not all of the entities have the community college. In fact, about half of them don't. There would be eight of the cities that would be having a higher total mill levy for experiences here in Garden. On average, the community colleges, their mill levy will run about 20%. We're fortunate here, community college is only at 25.3. So that is the quick snapshot. Hopefully you had a chance to skim through a few of the highlights of the audit before the meeting. We're more than happy to try and address any questions, if not now, later.
Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
We
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
the assistance we get through the audit process from all the staff here in the city. It's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of effort goes in on everybody's part, so
Right.
appreciate that. We need the assistance we get when we reach out to you also.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming.
We have to make a motion to accept it. I make a motion, we accept the annual comprehensive financial report as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, there is one thing I forgot about that Teresa and I talked about. That I know that right now that there's a limit. I think it's $10,000 when you have to make a purchase that has to go through the approval process. And we talked about maybe increasing that. I just don't want to forget it. But something rather, because $10,000 doesn't go very far I remember when the servers were out, we had to have a special meeting and all of
Right,
those.
right.
So I'm wondering if we need to revisit the amount that a 25,000 or something, especially the way dollars and increases are happening rather than the $10,000. So, without that prior approval of the governing body. So, wanted to mention that before I forgot it. So,
Awesome. All right, item 12D. The governing body is asked to consider a request from Mr. Jamie Gonzalez, GEI Garden City Properties LLC, to annex 4170 East Highway 50 into the municipal boundaries of the city of Garden City. Staff met with Mr. Gonzalez the first week of June prior to his formal request coming through to discuss the necessary steps for annexing his property into the city of Garden City's municipal boundaries. This property is currently on the city's water system and is charged 2 times the inside rate for water as per city code. And if annexed, the property would be charged the inside city water rate, which would reduce the water bill out there by 50%. The property owns and maintains the water distribution system, the sanitary sewer collection system that is connected to Finney County sanitary sewer system. It is also currently connected to Wheatland Electric Cooperative's electrical distribution system, and has the Northern Disposal provides the solid waste or the trash service for that property. Mr. Gonzalez stated in his request dated June 7th of 2023 for consideration to annex that he would continue to maintain the water system, the sanitary sewer system, and the streets within the property. The property is contiguous to the existing municipal boundaries. Given the complexity and the cost and the logistics associated with annexing the property with existing utility service systems configurations and the nature of the property in light of city codes and zoning, it's premature to approve the annexation of this property at this time, but the business item before you all this afternoon is framed to measure your interest in proceeding. If the governing body is interested in proceeding with Mr. Gonzalez's request, and the city would need to develop an annexation agreement clearly identifying the roles and responsibilities of all parties. If a majority of the governing body is not interested in annexing the property at this time, regardless of the terms, then both Mr. Gonzalez and city staff would be spared the time associated with negotiating all of those terms. So the alternatives before you this afternoon or one, the governing body may direct staff to negotiate with Mr. Gonzalez the terms of a proposed annexation agreement for 4170 East Highway 50 into the municipal boundaries to be considered by you all at a future meeting, or the governing body may deny that request and provide alternative direction. Staff is recommending that the governing body direct staff to negotiate with Mr. Gonzalez and bring back an annexation agreement for your consideration at a future meeting. Fiscal note related to this, working with Mr. Gonzalez to finalize the annexation process will not financially impact the city. Mr. Gonzalez will have economic implications if and when the property is annexed, and those expenses will be thoroughly vetted and explained to him before creating an annexation ordinance for your consideration at a future meeting. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
So is there curb and guttering on the streets there? I didn't get a chance to drive out there, so that's not. So so I know he talked about wanting to go ahead and maintain the streets, but is there any advantage to the city in the negotiation if we decide to do that? I mean, is there an advantage to the city making sure that we have control of how the streets are kept, or would that require us to put in curb and guttering?
So I think there are a couple different kind of value decisions for the governing body to consider. I think if it does become a city-maintained street, we would want that to be brought up to city standards, and there would be a pretty significant financial cost associated with that, whereas if the property owner wants to continue to maintain those, we would likely keep those as they're currently in the property, and he would be responsible for that maintenance on an ongoing basis.
My question would be about some of the structures that are in that location and maintenance of that and being brought up to the current codes within the city. And I mean, is that something that the residents and Mr. Gonzalez are going to be able to do? I mean, because I would hate to see, I mean, with the housing issue, and I know that with affordable housing and everything, that it would become almost unbearable, the cost would be too much for some of those residents. I mean, is any...
So when staff met with Mr. Gonzalez, that was one of the things that we talked about, and they have made, I think, some improvements related to kind of the code enforcement side of the house, related to a number of those properties. And in our conversations with him, he was fully prepared to keep it maintained at a level that we would expect within the city. So it was a conversation we had and something that he had kind of talked about. And also we had conversations on kind of the trash pickup side and what some of those services could be as well to help with some of those larger bulk items that you need to have kind of specialty services come in and pick those up. So we did have those conversations, and he was prepared and understood that.
Because I agree with the mayor. I think that affordable housing is an issue, and then again, you don't want to burden, people already. I don't know if they own their own lots or if there's something that's leased, but this idea of making sure that it's a win-win situation for both the city and Mr. Gonzalez, and also the residents that live there, knowing that housing is at such a premium. I mean, we want to make sure that this is something that we could do with them, in partnership with them, to make sure that this is a good deal all the way around. So.
I don't see Mr. Gonzalez, so.
He's here. He's right behind Fred.
Fred was
Right behind Fred.
We didn't even see there's any,
Thank you, council members. I'm
Yes.
Jeremy Gonzalez. I purchased this park 2 years ago. We try to give affordable housing to everybody. Every person owns their own home. I don't own any of these homes, so we really try to clean up the park since we purchased it. One of my goals was this to annex it to the city since I purchased it. So I'm just trying to work through that. So I would appreciate any help.
This includes the KOA and the RV park too, or is it?
No, I do not own the RV.
Okay, it's just the dotted area in there. Okay.
right. Just a light shaded in area.
Yeah.
So then we would just have like a KOA or whatever the KOA is called now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I mean, it's different that an owner comes to the city and asks to be annexed in versus a clean slate of property where we don't have to deal with already existing utilities. And so I think we just wouldn't want to make sure that all of the residents out there are aware of maybe some of the costs that can transition on to them. And that might get pushed, you might see some pushback from them because of that. So I think just getting everybody, understanding that you're wanting to do this just so that you get assistance with the city and things like that for street cleaning, for property upkeep and things like that. So I just think that keeping everybody aware would be the benefit for all of us here in this room to get them involved too.
So I don't know the lots, the people on the mobile homes. So no cost would be transferred to them.
Okay.
Anything that needs to be done.
Yeah, streets are really expensive. That's just why I want to make sure you think through that conversation, because streets are, it's a huge part of our budget. And so thinking about, are you for sure want to maintain those streets if the negotiations work? And then I would really think about that, whether long-term, that's something that you want to do in the long term. Depending on how long you're going to own that. But I think the street is one thing I would make sure that you be really sure about wanting to continue to maintain, because I know it's really expensive. And with the equipment we have, we spend a lot of money making sure that we keep our streets nice and clean and up to date. So I just want to make sure that's one of those conversations if the negotiations go through, that you make sure you think through that process.
And we'll talk through that and figure out what the best options.
Have you had a chance to visit with the homeowners in that area to see, kind of what their feelings are, or if they see advantages to being annexed into the city, or if maybe they don't have an opinion, or just kind of what kind of communication you've heard back from them?
Well, the water bill, which...
Yeah, that'd be huge. Yeah, that'd be big.
Yeah, we believe it.
Okay, sure. Okay,
We're trying to keep everything as affordable as we can.
okay, great.
I'll make a motion that we can have staff to continue to negotiate with Mr. Gonzalez in terms of the proposal agreement to annex 4170 East Highway 50 into the municipal boundaries to be considered at a future city commission meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, so it's moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yes, good luck.
Item 12E, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a letter of intent between the City of Garden City and Wheatland Electric Cooperative to develop a new agreement with WECI for the use of the city's affluent water. Fred.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. The city entered into an agreement with Wheatland Electric Cooperative in 2004 to permit the use of treated effluent water from the city's wastewater treatment plant. The current agreement expires in June of 2024, and the letter of intent presented to the governing body today outlines the matters that the city intends to negotiate with Wheatland regarding the development of a new agreement that will take into account the city's goal to expand the use of treated effluent water to benefit the portion of the Ogallala Aquifer that provides water resources to the city. The city has secured legal counsel with Triplett Wolf and Garrettson, and they are assisting us in the negotiations regarding to this letter of intent and the new agreement. If successfully negotiated, staff will present the proposed agreement for approval by the governing body at a future meeting. Alternatives we offer the governing body today. The governing body may approve the letter of intent between the city and Wheatland Electric Cooperative and direct the city manager to negotiate with Wheatland Electric Cooperative an agreement to use treated effluent water. Or the governing body may deny approval of the letter of intent as presented. Staff recommends alternative 1, to approve the letter of intent between the city and Wheatland Electric Cooperative and direct the city manager to negotiate an agreement. If successfully negotiated, will be presented to the governing body for your approval. When the agreement is complete, we'll have a complete fiscal note that will outline any financial impacts resulting from this agreement, and that will be presented to the governing body when appropriate.
Fred, how long was the original agreement? I guess I was looking in here. How long was it?
20 years.
So this would be another 20-year agreement then? Is that what you're hoping for?
We're negotiating a new agreement, so
Okay.
we're at that stage of the negotiation where we don't even have a time.
So the first one was 20 years? Okay.
I think it probably would be, it would have some length to it just due to the complexities of negotiating these things and the other purpose of also negotiating with other potential users of affluent water so they can make appropriate plans as well.
Yeah, I move that we approve the letter of intent between the city and WECI and direct the city manager to negotiate with WECI an agreement to use treated effluent water.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Fred.
Item 12F, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a water connection fee agreement between the City of Garden City and Oakvoice Development Cooperation for Hunters Glen Phase 1. Trent.
Okay, Mayor, Commissioners, Oikos Development Cooperation is requesting to pay a discounted amount of fees for new water service connections in the Hunters Glen Phase 1. Section 90-112 of the Code of Ordinances requires that service tap and service installation fees be paid prior to issuance of any building permit for structure and payment in full of such be a precondition to the issuance of such permit. Neighborhood Development Services in the past collected these fees at the time of issuing the building permit, however, failed to collect these fees at the time of issuing the building permits for Phase 1. Hunters Glen Phase 1 consists of 23 lots containing 24 plexes and 3 duplexes for a total of 86 units. Previous sections exempted single-family homes from paying the service tap fee and service installation fees. However, those sections did not exempt multifamily dwellings from paying such fees. You've got the little table there that shows the amounts and the calculation for that. The developer, Oikos Development Cooperation, requests to pay a discounted amount of fees in the lump sum of $115,920 for the service tap and service installation fees. This agreement will exclusively apply to Hunters Glen Phase 1 and no other phases within the approved rural housing incentive district for this area. Alternatives, the governing body may approve, alternative number 1, the governing body may approve the water connection fee agreement and authorize the mayor to sign the water connection fee agreement. Number 2, the governing body may not approve the water connection fee agreement and direct staff to find an alternative. Recommendation, the staff recommends approval of the water connection fee agreement and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. Fiscal note, any fees collected will go into the water budget reimbursed developer revenue account. The 2023 expense account for material water service that had budgeted $160,000 may exceed that amount by the end of the fiscal year. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. And we also have a representative of Oikos Development here, Kevin, with us, that you may be able to speak to as well.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the water connection fee agreement and authorize the mayor to sign the water connection fee agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
So I just have a question. So that $160,000, that's not just due to Hunters Glen, that's for everyone, is that correct?
I believe that's right, Carol.
And so the $115,920 that we're going to collect, the discounted from the 201, so that will go directly into that expense to fund it back?
Correct.
Okay.
But there's just a little bit of an off balance there that they
Right.
will use that reserve account for.
Okay.
Any other
That's all my
discussion?
questions.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the great building going on out there. It is amazing. I mean, how quickly they go up, so.
It is.
Item 12G, the governing body is asked to consider and approve appointing Mike Muirhead, Public Works and Utilities Director, and Kent Potoff, Electric Operations Manager, to the Kansas Municipal Energy Agency Board of Directors. As members of the Kansas Municipal Energy Agency, KMEA. The City of Garden City has representation on the KMEA Board of Directors. The governing body makes appointments to that board. The Director 1 position is currently held by Director of Public Works and Utilities Muirhead, and the appointment expired on April 30th of this year. Director 2 position is currently held by Electric Operations Manager Papa, and the appointment expired on April 30th of this year. So your alternatives are the governing body may appoint both Mike Muirhead, Director of Public Works and Utilities, as Director 1 to the KMEA Board of Directors, and Kent Potoff, Electric Operations Manager, as Director 2 to the same board, or the governing body, alternative 2 would be the governing body appoint somebody else to that board. Staff has no recommendation, and there is no fiscal impact related to this item.
I move that we appoint Mike Muirhead, Director of Public Works and Utilities, as Director 1 to the KMEA Board of Directors, and Kent Podorf, Electrical Operations Manager, as Director 2 to the same board.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
12H, the governing body is asked to consider and approve appointing Kent Potoff, Electric Operations Manager, to the Kansas Municipal Gas Agency Board of Directors. Again, you all have the ability to make appointments to that board. There is an opening. His appointment will expire on August 31st of this year. Your alternatives are to appoint Kent to the board of KMGA Board of Directors, or you may appoint somebody else. Staff, again, has no recommendation, and there is no fiscal impact.
I'll make the motion to appoint Ken Potoff, Electric Operations Manager, as the Director to the KMGA Board of Directors.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 12I, the governing body is asked to consider and approve one appointment to the Local Housing Authority Board. There are 2 vacancies on this board. The term is a 3-year term from July 1 of 2023 to June 30th of 2026. Crystal Finnegan has been a resident of Garden City for 15 years and is interested in serving a 3-year term. You can see the other board members are listed here as well. Again, your alternatives are to appoint Crystal Finnegan to a 3-year term beginning in July of 2023, or not appoint her and direct staff to find alternative candidates. The recommendation of the Local Housing Authority, they have reviewed the application and recommend alternative 1, and again, there is no fiscal impact.
I think this is a very important board, so I move to appoint Crystal Finnegan to a 3-year term beginning July 2023.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
12J, the governing body is asked to consider and approve 2 appointments to the Zoo Advisory Board, and I'll let Christy do this one.
She's on a roll.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. The Zoo Advisory Board is a 7-member board. We have 2 openings. We have 2 members who are completing their full terms at the end of this month. One, Blair Loving, is completing his first term, so he is eligible to serve another one and would like to do so. Donna Leitner has completed 2 full terms and is not eligible to take another one on. We did receive 3 applications. James McGowan, Liz Morgan, and Susan Rojas also applied to fill any open spots. The zoo staff reached out to those applicants to confirm their interest before consideration. The Advisory Board made consideration of all the applicants at their last meeting and have a recommendation for you further on in this. So of course, the Advisory Board can appoint, no. Governing body may appoint Blair Loving and James McGowan, each for a full term, or you may appoint any 2 applicants for full terms, or you can tell us to delay the appointment and do it at another time. The Advisory Board recommends alternative 1, reappoint Blair Loving and appoint James McGowan, each for a full term.
I'll make the motion that we reappoint Blair Loving and appoint James McGowan, each for a full term, to the Zoo Advisory Board.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this takes us to our consent agenda. If approved, it would be agenda items K1 through 3.
I move to approve consent agenda items K1 through 3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Right. Commission reports. Commissioner Dick?
Well, this will conclude my reign of 3 straight times where I get to go first.
I mean, you know.
One thing to commend Curtis for coming in and giving our staff kudos. It's good to see him, and it's good to hear from people who've worked with our departments and recognize what work they do. So I thank Curtis for coming in and saying good things about Matt and Danielle, about all the work that they've been doing in the community. It was nice to hear from him. Also, looking forward to the fair. Like she said, building it back up. That sounds like a fun thing again to go to. So that was good. So make sure you mark your calendar for the Finney County Fair. And along with that, we've had a really good string of cultural kind of things going on downtown with the Community Cultural Festival, Cinco de Mayo, Beef Empire Days. Pride was last Thursday at Stevens Park, and all of those seem to be well attended. I made it to most of those, and then this weekend is Art in the Park, so make sure you get out to that. So really good things happening downtown. Also, I wanted to point out that our sales look like we're strong again. The distribution is up slightly, but if you look at the complete sales, not the part that's just divided off on distributions, we're actually up 18% over last year at this time. So that's a huge amount of sales. That's a huge amount of sales for especially how much we've been up last year and the year before. So that's good to see. And then just congratulations on the new Parks and Rec Director, Tisha, for coming here. She was in on the interview process, and she'll be a really good addition to the team. That's it.
All right, Commissioner Unruh.
So, I was really excited. I do own a pair of cowboy boots and a hat. I rarely get to wear it, so I thought, this might be the perfect, although I would like a custom hat. I thought that would sound really cool. So I just really appreciate all the work that the Finney County Fair, their board does. And I mean, it is a huge amount of work. And, you begin, right after the fair is over, you begin again. So I think that's really exciting. I'm kind of excited about the opportunity to award additional AFAC funds. I really had no idea we had that much. And I know there's some huge issues just in our area. And so hopefully the applications that come in will really work toward those items that we've targeted, but also this idea of really considering, so what does that look like long term? I'm excited about the new Parks and Recs director. I did not get a chance to meet or talk with her. Unfortunately, I was gone out of town, but I am very excited about having someone in place and also someone who is so experienced and has a lot of experience and really wants to see Garden City grow. Thank you for all of those who put in applications for the appointments, all the advisory boards. It is a lot of work, and it does a lot. It is the hard work. It is the heart and soul of the city in helping make decisions. And so I just want to say thank you to all of those who put your names in and are also willing to serve on all these committees. I know sometimes it takes a lot of time and energy and commitment just to get there. The final thing is I really appreciate the Downtown Vision talking about parklets. We've been talking about this it's been years, and seeing it this far, and I just commend them to working with KDOT, because I know that's not always easy. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm really excited. I'm hoping that we can create a new era of working with the county and making sure that we as a city, we live in this area together. One thing that we have been hallmarked and highlighted for time and time again is how well our county and city work together. And, that's really the reason for our success. I remember the Chamber of Commerce did a really great video presentation called Pulling Together. And I know at that time, Commissioner Seston was in that video talking about how we understand how to work together. And so lots of times it's letting go of some of those past and those frustrations, and instead, so what can we do to forge a path together forward so that we continue to be the outstanding area in city that people look to say, hey, if they can do it, we can do it also. Because when we process as a city, our whole region prospers. So I just want to encourage us to really make sure that we are working hard to continue to pull in the same direction, to really think about, so what does that look like, and what is each and every one of our parts. So I am just excited about all the things that are going in Garden City. I know there's some exciting things, and so Art in the Park is dangerous because that's where you spend a lot of money. And so I almost didn't realize it was that weekend, so I had a couple weeks to save, but anyway. So I just want to thank you for everything that's going on here. That's all I have.
Commissioner Cessna.
Just kind of reiterate what the other commissioners noted. Mary Street is looking really good with the repavement and the striping, less rough spots and everything. Attended the Wynn baseball game during the city night. We set an attendance record of over 860 in attendance that evening, and they also won 13-1. So I think if you have a huge crowd, that really pumps up our team and helps them win. Stoplights are in and are working at Mary Street and 156. This is another promise kept on the 2017 sales tax initiative. We do have one more item that we're working on, and that's the fire station out of that initiative. But again, just be mindful that the stoplights are working at that intersection. Airport set a record of employments in May, so great things to come at the airport, especially with the new terminal. Phase 1's getting closer to completion, which is really exciting. Great to see the Garden City Police Department Explorers compete and place at the state competition. It's great to have this program in our community, and where students can explore and get an opportunity to get that hands-on training in the police department. It's kind of growing our own, actually, and so if students are interested, I highly encourage you to contact the Garden City Police Department. They did finish with a number of strong placings in that competition, so really showing that we're training those explorers very well and getting them up to speed in the police department. I did attend the League of Kansas Municipalities state meeting. They're going through a strategic plan for that organization. There will be a meeting here in Garden City on Wednesday, July 19th, and that's from 11 to 1 to give input for the League of Kansas Municipalities on how they can better serve the cities and communities across the state of Kansas. So highly encourage you to come out on Wednesday, July 19th, and that'll be in the FinUp Center. They'll be there and just getting input for that plan. I did also attend the County Commission meeting yesterday. The County Commission was looking at the agreement for the neighborhood and development, and so just wanted to tend to look at those changes and see what direction they were going to move. They were in consensus on just those changes that were in the agreement. They didn't approve it, but more negotiations to come. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Commissioner Ortiz.
You guys said it all, I think. I'm just going to echo the other commissioners' comments and stuff, and congratulations to Tisha and Nolan, too, for coming in and doing, going through that process as well. Great candidates there to both kind of go look forward to hiring both of them. Well, Nolan's already hired, but for the better of the, or for the, how do you say it? To better the city, I guess. She's a good ad. She brings qualifications from her city. So I think it's going to just expand our future. There you go. We are growing, so like the report said, we've grown a lot. So I think just adding professionals and bringing them here to Garden City really just helps us grow even more. So just like to say, I haven't gone like every weekend, so I haven't been able to go to these events that you guys have been talking about. But it sounds really, really good, really fun, and maybe there's a vendor for the fair that could probably make you a hat. So we'll kind of look for that. We'll kind of look for that when we go through those vendor booths and stuff. So, but yeah, I think you guys said it all. So thanks for the citizens who come up and spoke. Thanks for the citizens that are investing in Garden City, and those developers coming in and investing in Garden City also. So I'd like to see Garden City grow. So thank you.
All right. I enjoyed the pre-meeting as well. It's always nice when we can make downtown a destination where we can bring people in and not only, just drive through and admire the downtown, but to also go in and shop at the local businesses and restaurants. And I think having the first parklet on a highway in Kansas is kind of a cool thing. We could put a placard, first on a, yeah, it's a good trivia question. But anyway, I'm so grateful for all of the work that's been done on that. And again, it's just a, matter of, working with KDOT and having them really, I feel like, wanting to make it happen. And that's something that, it takes a while when you're working with two different government entities. And so I think that the progress that's been made thus far is pretty impressive. Also, when we talk about hiring Tisha as the Parks and Recreation Director, to me, I was just impressed with the caliber of candidates that we attract for some of these big positions in the city. I mean, the Park and Recs Director, that's a very big job. It's a very outward-facing position. And having the caliber of people apply, I think, was very impressive. And I think it just says a lot to, working for the city and being a part of Garden City. And I was impressed by that caliber. But then also, I think, having Tisha join, I think she'll be great, and appreciated having Nolan as a part of that as well. But I was really impressed and pleased, and left that day going, I think that whatever decisions made will be in good hands. I know I attended the University of Kansas Cancer Center was here to talk about their partnership here in Garden City. Commissioner Dick also was there. And that was a nice celebration just to show that, again, that partnership between KU Medical and the Cancer Center that we have here. And so for those people who are going through cancer treatments, that they can do that here. And they can have that ability to work with KU and not have to travel and have that added expense and burden. And so it was a very nice celebration, a very nice time. And then I also attended the Quilt of Valor presentation last week with some of the commissioners and city staff and a lot of others that were here, and they were honoring female veterans. And so that was a very nice opportunity and a presentation to go to, and just some beautifully made quilts that were made locally. So I don't think I have anything else to come before.
I would just like to thank Danielle for filling in for Matt today.
Yes.
She did a very
Yes.
good job.
She did an excellent job.
Good
Thank
job.
you, Commissioner, for that. All right, there being none, this meeting is adjourned.